All right, let's dive into a global snapshot of artificial intelligence. But we're not just talking about the tech itself. We're going to explore how AI is built, how it's used, and even how it kind of thinks differently depending on where you are and what you're asking it to do. So, that brings up the big question. Is all AI created equal? It seems simple, right? But the answer is way more complex than you might think. Seriously, from huge national strategies all the way down to the code writing bots on your laptop, the differences are absolutely staggering. We always hear about the AI race, like it's this one big competition with everyone sprinting towards the same trophy. But that's not really the right way to look at it. It's much more like a whole bunch of different races, all happening at the same time on totally different tracks with their own unique rulebooks. Okay, so let's start at the very top, the national blueprints. What are the world's major players actually trying to accomplish with AI? I think you'll find their strategic goals are pretty surprising. Okay, what's so fascinating here is how this reveals completely different philosophies. So you've got the United States focusing on technological sovereignty, which is all about balancing new ideas with national security. Then there's China prioritizing institutional readiness, using a really centralized approach for massive projects like smart cities. But then you have smaller, agile countries like Estonia, who are all in on citizen-oriented services, and the UAE, using AI to make government itself run better. And this isn't just policy talk. These priorities actually shape the DNA of the AI being built in each place. So let's see how those big picture strategies trickle down to the actual tools that developers use every day. We're going to zoom right in on AI models that write code and see what happens when we put them to the test in the super creative world of game development. And wow, when researchers put these AI coders head to head, the differences were pretty stark. For a creative task like making a game, a model that was specifically designed for that entire workflow, which you see on the left, it just knocked it out of the park. Meanwhile, a more general purpose model over on the right really struggled to keep up. It just goes to show you that even some of the most popular AIs have pretty big gaps in specialized areas. And this chart just nails the point home, doesn't it? It's not just about getting an answer from the AI, it's about getting the right answer that actually fits into a complex project. For a game developer, the difference between high and lower support, well, that's the difference between a project that flows and one that grinds to a halt. But here's the really cool part, the bigger picture. By translating plain English into working code, these tools are, and I love this quote, democratizing game development. It means you don't have to be a coding genius anymore to be a creator. That is fundamentally changing the entire game for software development. Now we're going to go even deeper, right under the hood, to understand this massive shift in how AI is being built. We're talking about the battle for context, how an AI learns not just a bunch of facts, but the relationships between them. And the key piece of tech here is something called a knowledge graph. Now, forget about boring old spreadsheets. A knowledge graph is way more like a mind map for a machine. It doesn't just store individual pieces of data, it actually stores the connections between them. This creates this rich web of understanding that's much closer to how our own brains connect ideas. And this is the difference it makes in the real world. Old AI, built on those traditional databases, it just kind of falls apart when you ask it complex, multi-part questions. It loses the context. But the new AI, the one powered by knowledge graphs, it thrives on those complex relationships. It gives you insights that aren't just accurate, but they're context-aware. And that, right there, is a massive leap forward. Okay, let's zoom back out. We've established that not all AI is created equal, not by a long shot. So now let's see how those differences in performance actually play out in parts of our lives that you and I deal with every day. All right, first up, language. You might think that AI has basically solved translation by now, but a really specific task, like translating from English to Hindi, can show some really surprising gaps between different models. And get this, researchers compared two models built on really similar tech. But look, one hit 84% accuracy, while the other only managed 71%. That 13-point difference is huge. It proves that even within the same family of AI, the specific design choices and the data it was trained on can lead to wildly different results. Now let's bring it home, literally. This same idea applies to where we live. AI isn't just some abstract thing in the cloud anymore. It's being woven into the fabric of our daily lives through our home appliances, making our spaces that much smarter. And the benefits are things you can actually feel. AI-enabled homes can sense what's happening in a room. They can predict your behavior, like, say, turning up the heat before you even get home. They manage energy way more efficiently, and they just feel more intuitive and adapted to your life.
And of course, you can't talk about AI without talking about finance. This is a world built on data where AI is changing from being a simple bookkeeper into a real strategic partner.
So, right now, a lot of the AI in finance is just focused on automating tasks we already do, like accounting. But the future? That's all about predictive analytics and helping make big decisions, using AI to see around corners, assess risk in the moment, and guide strategy. It's a huge shift from just processing the past to actually predicting the future. And that brings us to our final and maybe most profound comparison of all. Not machine versus machine, but human versus machine, especially when it comes to making those really tough ethical calls. So, when researchers gave teachers and an AI the exact same ethical problems, a really fascinating split happened. Humans, we tended to lean on empathy and the rules we've all learned. The AI, on the other hand, it favored a much more analytical, outcome-based logic. You see, our judgment is shaped by our entire lives, our experiences, our education. The AI, it just operates on the rigid frameworks it was programmed with. Neither one is necessarily wrong, but they are fundamentally different ways of seeing the world.
And what this all points to is that the future probably isn't about replacing human judgment with AI. It's much more likely to be about building hybrid systems, combining our empathetic, experience-based thinking with an AI's powerful analytical logic so we can tackle these incredibly complex ethical challenges together.
And this whole idea of integration really is the next big wave. I mean, we've already seen how combining AI with knowledge graphs creates business intelligence that actually understands context. Now, just imagine pairing AI with digital twins, these perfect virtual models of real things. You could have things like near-perfect patient monitoring. It's becoming super clear that AI's true power gets unlocked when you combine it with other amazing technologies. Which leaves us with one final big question to think about. We are getting unbelievably good at teaching machines to be intelligent, to process data, find patterns, and spit out answers. But as we build this future, the real challenge, the one that really matters, is this. Can we ever teach a machine wisdom?